going to give a brief introduction of what is the microbiota vault. And as you all know, industrialization is happening everywhere very rapidly. With industrialization, there is changes in cultural diversity, social practices, food production, changes in diet, in the way we use medicine, converging into a single way of life. And this is what we call the Anthropocene. And the Anthropocene comes with great successes and advances, but also with huge problems which we haven't really tackled properly. And we think that the new diseases that are new from the past 100 years are related to urbanization. And these, on the left side, you can see how since the 50s, on last century, we have been able to control very well infectious diseases at a cost that comes with it, which is the increase in the incidence of immune disorders and metabolic disorders. So we think this phenomenon is linked to microbes. There are two hypotheses behind these new immune metabolic diseases. On the right side is the oldest hypothesis, is the hygiene hypothesis. And it really states that is the alteration or lack of environmental exposure that drives asthma and allergies. The newest one has to do with exposure with human-adapted microbes, is the disappearing microbiota, human microbiota hypothesis, which states that is the lack of exposure to the proper human-adapted microbes. And we think that both are microbial exposures in these exposures are very important, and both environment and human-adapted are very important. This, in very early life, alterations in microbial exposure alter development. And these exposures really is a choreographic succession of exposures from birth, very human exposure, exposure to human adapted microbes at the beginning of life, and then very intense environmental exposure in young age, but later after lactation. So urbanization brings alterations of this exposure from the use of antibiotics in pregnancy, during labor, C-sections, use of non-natural diets in lactating babies like formula, so lack of breastfeeding, then use of technology that also restrict transmission of microbes from mothers to babies. Our babies grow in urban environments, very poor in natural soil exposure, clean apartments, etc. So in my work and in the work of other people, we have seen consistently that there is a disappearing of diversity in the urban gradient. In this case, we are showing indigenous peoples, very remote Yanomami in Venezuela, or transculturated indigenous people, Guahibo, Malawi in Africa, or the US, with the US having the lowest gut microbiota diversity. The indigenous people that we were able to collect samples at first reported contact had twice the fecal diversity of microbes than the US. So we know what microbes are disappearing thanks to these molecular methods where we can look at the taxa. We know that medical exposure, which is the first exposure, starts this process of depleting microbial diversity. And in this important graph from the Smith's paper, we collaborated with Justin Sonnenberg, we can see the importance of exposure to urban life. When they order in the principal coordinate 1 all the microbiota data that was available for in 2016, what they observe is a spontaneous ordering by lifestyle. That's a main driver. So on the left side of the PC01, you have the very remote people, very traditional peoples, jungles of South America or savannas of Africa. Then you have a rural setting, rural lifestyle, also from Africa or South America. And then you have all the urban cloud countries from Asia or Europe or US on the right. So this is really evidencing how important it is lifestyle, regardless of geography and even diet. So also from the Sonnenberg paper, he depicts very well how microbiota services that were balanced pre-urban, in pre-urban times where there was an immune response, that was a well-educated immune system and metabolic system related to the lifestyle. People exercised, etc., ate a lot of fiber, to the urban lifestyle where microbiota services are altered, favoring inflammation and calorie storage and growth in early life. We have urban life is related to extensive antimicrobial use, not only in medicine, but also on the farm, in the way we produce our foods, disappearing agricultural landscapes that also disappear food crop varieties and plant diversity, and lead to impoverished ecosystems. There is a lot of evidence in the literature how soils have been altered in their microbiology, changing the chemical characteristics, and this is related also to climate change. So how can we do about it as microbiologists? How can, when we see the monetary and biodiversity, the two wealths of the world, we can see here the richest monetarily countries in the world in orange, but the most biodiverse in green, and there is very little overlapping. So what is an equitable approach to this imbalance? How can we connect them? How to strengthen the capacity of the South for preservation of their very important hotspot of biodiversity in a world that is extremely commercial? So can we do something non-profit? So we proposed in 2018 this idea that if industrialization is degrading the microbiota, can we reverse that by restoring microbes? This will need, because microbial diversity is disappearing, this will need storage. We need to preserve this diversity. We need to rescue human traditional practices and recognize them as sustainable. We need to improve culturing bacteria because we will need them to restore. And we need to be global in both preserving and studying, doing research, and be global in restoring ecosystems that are valuable for everybody in the world. We have a precedent of the seed vault because agriculture is doing to plants what our lifestyle is doing to microbes. So the seed vault is really our inspiration to preserve. They are preserving the seeds of foods that were evolved by nature and not manipulated genetically by humans for the future. And we created the microbiota vault with the same idea. You can see the webpage. The way the microbiota vault, the model is as follows. The center is really the local working collections. Local working collections that are everywhere in the world that we are promoting can request to the microbiota vault to preserve a backup of their collection, of their specimens. If we have the money, we can also sequence so that we can show the genetic content of those deposits to the world. We do not do research, but by posting in our webpage the protocols on how to preserve and collect and preserve, posting who is the depositor and the gene content of the specimens, we hope we can connect the local collections to the world and they can do research. So we want to enable with standardized protocols, open access to sequence data, education and workshops. We want to preserve, improving the capacity of local repositories, but offering the backup as well. And we want to connect by promoting global collaborations, mentoring, training opportunities, and promoting research. We do not do research ourselves directly. The depositors maintain all the rights to own the materials they deposit and on the information as well. So an important issue that we really want to acknowledge and tackle frontally is equity, how to empower local researchers and communities and enable research, which we don't directly do. We are concerned about ethics of exploring the microbiome of traditional peoples, and we work with traditional peoples trying to come to terms on what is the best and most ethical approach, which we don't dictate. They, with us, we work together on that. And the Microbiota Vault has an amazing board of directors, of which you will recognize scientists. We have 2 Nobel Prizes, Rich Roberts and Jim Heckman, who are people concerned with the loss of microbial biodiversity. And in the case of Heckman, he's an economist. And he studies how the health systems of the world will not be able to cope with a population of humans that are becoming sicker and sicker. These are the founder members that I have highlighted. And we have over 100 collaborators. And in our pilot phase that is coming soon, we will be showing the advances of how we deposit already 1,400 samples from 9 local collections. We can see that we are covering quite well the Americas, Southeast Asia, but we really need to put efforts on expanding in Africa. The launch phase will be shown in the next talk. We have started with gut and food, but we want to expand to preserving microbes from other life entities, life hosts like animals and plants, also from the soil as well, from everywhere. In the launch phase, we had to transit legal, regulatory aspects like Nagoya, protocol optimization, which you will hear about, working with the local working collections, transporting with the right permits, storage, optimizing storage, metadata, and sequencing. We recently published the first paper about what is the Microbiota Vault. It was launched by Nature Communications on the World Microbiome Day on the 27th of June. And we have a history of these events, the GLOMINE, the Global Microbiota Network. The first one was in Peru in 2021, the next year in Africa with Ghana, Ethiopia, and Mozambique. The next one was in Indonesia, and the next one was in Chile, and this one is really global. We have made a lot of effort to make noise and visibility and try to promote the need to preserve, not only in Switzerland, where there was a lot of visibility because the launch phase was there, and we are trying to make the repository there. There is also a film called Invisible Extinction that is about the microbiome. And we use that film where it's my work and Marty's place of work is shown. And use it, we have brought it to the United Nations headquarters to raise, concern about preserving microbes. We were in Cali, Colombia, in the United Nations COP16, and we are now helping to make the efforts to bring together microbial conservation with the UN Species Survival Commission. We are using this visibility to fundraise. Recently, we were also contributing to the Triennale of Milano, which is an architectural event. Microbes are being embraced by architects, engineers, not only medical doctors. We are in the growth phase and starting to explore, in addition to Switzerland, a secondary repository to have a really a backup of that collection. And with this, I thank you for your attention.